Pump it up, don't you know? Pump it up. You got to pump it up, don't you know? Pump it up. You got to pump it up, don't you know? Pump it up. You got to pump it up, don't you know? Pump it up. You got to pump it up, don't you know? Pump it up. You got to pump it up, don't you know? Pump it up. You got to pump it up, don't you know? Pump it up. You got to pump it up, don't you know? Pump it up. You got to pump it up, don't you know? Pump it up. You got to pump it up, don't you know? Pump it up. You got to pump it up, don't you know? Pump it up. You got to pump it up, don't you know? Pump it up. You got to pump it up, don't you know? Pump it up. You got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up, don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up, don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up, 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 don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up, don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up, don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up, don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up.
In the year 2028, one Big Mac will equal $1 million. From the Gospel of John McAfee. Bro, just learn to code. The Project Freedom Podcast.
Boom, and welcome to the Project Freedom Podcast, episode number 19, where we discuss anything and everything that has to do with sovereign individualism and being free. Guys, episode number 19, wow, it's going. Shout out to the people in the chat. They're probably the overlords at the company of which this video is being streamed on. Probably you're going to flag me for that intro, but I really don't care because I wanted to play it, and today is a good day. Today is a good day indeed, guys. And also, real quick, like, shout out to the people that, shout out to my followers that have been in here, the OG guys, and helped me out with everything, supporting me. I really appreciate everything you guys have done, seriously. And shout out to the people in the DD gang. You guys are indeed beloved. So, guys, the topic for today is going to be, they fear the lines on a screen. I think you guys kind of know what I mean by that, right? Lines on a screen, code, right? And what are we seeing going on right now with the entire planet? Aside from all the fuckery, right? I mean, there's a bunch of fuckery, right? But we're seeing kind of like an economical change for one. And we're also seeing a technological change in our monetary policy and our monetary systems. And one could argue that there's kind of like a battle between two different sectors or belief sets. But real quick, let me get caught up with the chat and tell you guys hello. Oh, Michael T. Michael says, hey, big boss. What's up, man? Good to see you tonight. Cody Mouse says, production value looking like Boomer Coin right now. I hope so. The Boomer Coin is number one. So Kyle said, let's go. What's up, man? Let's go indeed. Longest intro in the RP space, no cap. Yeah. I wanted to play it. Cody Moose. Cody Moose in the house. Wait, Emery. Hello. What is up, my friend? Osa Chain, Licky Tongue, Orange Pill Emoji, Christian Soto. What's up, guys? Hope y'all are doing good tonight. All right. So I had scheduled this stream last Friday, maybe Thursday. All right. And obviously, the weekend didn't happen yet. So that massive upstream in the price of ye old Boomer Coin wasn't under my knowledge, right? Because I don't have a time machine and I couldn't go back in the past and know what was going on. But I kind of had like a feeling, guys. I kind of had a feeling that, there's other than just having a feeling. I mean, if you guys remember the last stream, not last stream, 2 streams ago, where we talked about the 80,000 Boomer Coins that were dumped on a spot exchange. I mean, that's just sus as fuck, right? It's nobody does that, okay? Nobody fucking does that, other than the person that did it. But nobody does that without doing it for a reason, right? But the weekend didn't happen yet, is my point. And I kind of had this like feeling that people are starting to realize something's wrong with the monetary system, right? And banks, companies, corporations, and also the GOV, the Gov, I kind of get this feeling that they're kind of afraid, right? And quite frankly, they are afraid. They're very, very afraid. They're afraid of being replaced. And people are waking up. People are starting to realize, hey, something's not right. It makes more sense for me to do this new thing over here as opposed to this thing that was taught to everybody since the 1920s, 1930s is the way to go and the way to live life. And the people that are continuing that kind of old world way of thinking aren't really happy. And why aren't they happy? Because they're watching their money just basically evaporate in front of their eyes, right? There's really not anything anyone could argue to me. Maybe you could argue this to other people, but to me, there's nothing that anyone could argue to me that is a benefit of our current financial system that can't be replaced with software. All right, like there's really nothing to me that someone can say that could change my mind about that. And again, I'm opinionated on this topic, right? Like I feel about it a certain way, and so someone else's opinions might vary on my opinions. But at least to me, I mean, there's nothing you can tell me there's nothing you can say to me that could justify having a small select group of people control and run our entire monetary system would be better as opposed to people writing software that's non-biased, that doesn't need to be trusted, just does its job for what it's programmed to do, that isn't malicious in any way, shape, or form, and that has a layer of protection built into it to prevent things from prevent people from quote unquote devaluing it. Okay. And what happened last week, guys? We saw a bunch of regulations from all kinds of governments all throughout the world just start dropping, right? I'm specifically talking about cryptocurrency, okay? One thing in particular that I would like to share with you guys right here on the screen, if you can give me one second, guys. Patience is a virtue. Okay. Check this out, fellas. All right, so right here is the Uniswap code update. All right. From when did they post? I mean, I guess they made another commit 3 days ago. I believe this happened last Thursday or last Friday. All right. I should probably turn my Wi-Fi off. Excuse me. All right. Hopefully I didn't put a blip in the stream. So if you guys got a blip, you'll have to sue me. All right. So let's take a look at this, guys. But if you guys don't know exactly what happened, basically Uniswap, which is what, guys? It's the largest decentralized exchange out there currently, right? They made some changes, okay, to their code to prevent certain digital assets from being traded, right? Now, why? If anyone already knows the things that they removed, why do you guys think that is? But if you guys don't know, let's take a look. All right, so right here from line 12 on is a list of all the tokens. All right, and the first one we see right here is Gold Tether. All right, now I don't really know off the top of my head what Gold Tether is, but I think it's like XAUT. All right, so what the fuck is this? This is just an ERC20 token that's a representation of gold somewhere. Right? I think this is similar to like Pax Gold. Right? This is part of something from the derivatives market, right? Gold, paper gold, essentially paper gold, right? I mean, you guys know that the gold price is like heavily manipulated due to the fact that on the derivatives market, these things are traded, right? So here's one, all right? Grumpy Cat. I really have no idea what the fuck Grumpy Cat is, but yeah, that got removed. Ape USD, UMA synthetic USD. So this is just like, I'm not exactly sure, but this is some sort of derivative for United States dollar. I don't know if this is like an inverse derivative or what. But there's another one, all right? This one, I don't even know why this object is like out of order, but O wrapped ETH P put. Okay, so this is an ERC20 token that's a representation of a put option that goes to December 25th, or from December 25th. And this one, they might have had a valid reason to remove this one because it looks like it might be old, or maybe this was when it was created. I don't know if this date is when it was expired or created. I'm just making guesses here. Here's another thing too. All right, so far, pretty much the majority of everything we're looking at is derivatives, right? Here's a call option on ETH. That was removed. A put option. More put options, calls, puts, put. Insurance for DAI, collateralized DAI insurance. I'm not even quite sure what the fuck this is, but I mean, everything we're looking at so far, this is inverse Aave. Okay, so this is synthetic inverse Aave. So this is kind of like, this is definitely a derivative. I believe these are minted by Synthetics, so I'm not sure. And you guys already know inverse ADA, inverse BNB, inverse Bitcoin, inverse CEX, whatever CEX is, centralized exchange index. Okay, so this is just, I mean, these are just some of this stuff, guys. As far as like derivatives markets goes, this is like pretty complex stuff that's like over my head and how these things work. Here's a synthetic inverse DeFi. All right, but basically, guys, the point is, and inverse Litecoin, inverse oil. All right, this is 100%, has to do with the derivatives market. All right, inverse REN. A lot of these things were from Synthetics, right? Synthetic inverse Ripple. That's funny. I wonder how many of these were actually being used. But the point here is, guys, Synthetics, right? If you guys aren't familiar with Synthetics, they're basically just like a synthetic derivatives protocol. Well, they're more than that. They're quite a few things, right? But all this stuff that's being removed right here, I mean, I don't really see anything. Synthetic Apple, synthetic Aave. There's a lot, all right? A majority of this stuff was just synthetic-based or Synthetics platforms-based tokens, or tokens that are either minted or made through the Synthetics platform, right? And obviously, there's some other stuff. There's some weird Mario. Hold on, what the hell is this? I should have looked at all this before. Mario Cash Synthetic token expiring 15 January 2021. Okay. So some of this stuff has already been expired. So I guess I was told by some people that the reason that they removed this stuff is because there was a lack of liquidity there. But if you go to their website, in fact, let's actually go. Let's go all the way up. Let's just go back to the repository on GitHub and let's see what they say is the reason why. I think someone left a comment on here. I believe someone left a comment. So if we look and see, and they basically said it was because of regulations, right? And I'm kind of upset about this. In particular, I'm upset with the Uniswap developers for a couple reasons, okay? I don't really know where that comment is, but regardless, we don't really need to see it, okay? We don't need to see the comment to make the point that I'm trying to make. So Uniswap, guys, is a decentralized exchange, all right? It was basically like the first big one out there. And, the premises of that was these developers got together and they're like, hey, we're going to write some code and we're going to make kind of an autonomous organization with code, all right, to replace, or maybe not replace, but to act as an exchange that doesn't have any sort of like authority figure, right? It's just the code. The code's going to do all of it, okay? So, everyone that's in here that believes in the new world way of thinking, that believes in, in this technology as a benefit for humanity, you guys, I don't think I need to like explain everything. I think you guys understand, the purpose of that stuff, right? I mean, if you guys do want me to explain it, let me know, and I will. But I think most of my people know, right? And what happened? Well, is Uniswap really permissionless? I don't really know anymore, right? Is that really going to affect them in the long term? Probably not. But I mean, who's to say if the developers are just going to like waver like that and just make changes because they're scared? Who's going to say they're not going to do that to anything else in the future, right? It's the same thing with everything else in life. Like once they start taking one thing from you, they start taking more and more and more, and slowly and surely, the rug's pulled from underneath you, right? There's two different kind of rug pulls. There's a fast one and there's one that's slow and sudden, right? And usually the slow and sudden one, slow and long, and usually the slow and long one is more painful, right? So why did they do that? I mean, who knows? Obviously, I read one of the comments and they said that it was because, it might have been on their Twitter somewhere, but they basically said that they were making changes to comply with regulations, right? But if you have a decentralized exchange that's supposed to be quote unquote permissionless, and you just update the code whenever you want to apply with regulations, is that really permissionless? Is that really a decentralized exchange? So who really knows what happens or what happened? Like, did the developers have someone come knock on their door and give them the wrench treatment? Who knows, right? Or did they just decide to do that themselves? Who knows, right? No one really knows. But I mean, at the same time, people can make arguments that like, hey, like, the Uniswap token itself, someone, and I don't believe this is the case, but someone could argue that the Uniswap token itself could be considered like equity in the Uniswap company. And so like maybe the developers like, hey, maybe they want us to comply, because if not, they might have other things they're going to come after us for. Wink, wink. But regardless, it's upsetting, right? Because they changed their code. They soy devved on us, right? They had no conviction in what they did. And again, too, like, maybe I'm not a developer for Uniswap, all right? But maybe if I was, and I was in that position, maybe I would be afraid. Maybe I would be cautious and concerned. And, maybe I would have made the same choice, right? I don't actually know what I would have done in that situation because I'm not them. But I do know this. I know that if I were going to write some sort of code like that, if I were going to make an entity with code for the purpose that they claimed this purpose for which they created Uniswap, I would have thought of these things ahead of time. And if I believed at the time that this might be a problem in the future, and this might be something that I might have to be faced with, me personally, I would have rather, if I thought that, I would probably waver and just, hey, the government's going to come and give me the back alleyway wrench treatment. I would rather just not even do it at all than to just do it and then crawfish after, because it first of all, it looks bad. And second of all, it just defeats the whole purpose, right? Let me get caught up in the chat. Sergio Chavez says, what's up, Josh? See you in the course. What's up, man? I look forward to seeing you in there. Shout out to the people that signed up for the blockchain fundamentals course. It's going to be a good turnout. We had a good group of people in there. It's going to be fun. You guys are going to learn a lot of stuff about how this stuff works. from a technological standpoint, and like this is my favorite course to give. So it's gonna be fun indeed. I have more fun doing that than I do any other any kind of code anyway. But because it's new, right? It's new and it's relative and it's fresh and fun. And a quick off topic thing, guys. Like some people always ask me like, hey, how can I stop getting bored when I'm trying to learn how to code? And like the truth is, guys, like if you don't know, like you're gonna have to you're gonna have to spend some time in tutorial island, and it's just gonna be painful. But the most enjoyment you're gonna get out of writing code is when you're doing something that you really like, right? When you're working on a project of something that's important to you, not when you're going through leak code stuff and trying to traverse a binary tree. That's not really very fun, is it? Danny B says, looking forward to the course and seeing you in there as well. Moon Gang, what's up, my friend? Says they screw the next generation out of opportunity. Then they throw nursing home temper tantrums when they see how profitable decentralized finance is becoming. Good riddance, Gen X/baby boomers. All right, hold on one second, man. Hold on one second. This man right here, guys. This man gets it. This man gets it. Sam Perchinsky says, hopping on. What is up, my friend? Good to see you. And then Danny says, or Donnie Boy says, synthetic USD is created when you stake synthetics. Yeah, it is. But I think you can also mint it, right? You can mint it with That's actually good. Let's actually let me pull this up. I'll get back to the comments, but let me pull this up so we can check this out real quick. I believe their website is synthetics.io or something like that. Hold on. I do indeed want to get that, my friend. Who else is in the chat over here? Tom Graff, my friend, says they want to get on the good side of the regulators. Yeah, they do. Right? I mean, they do. But guys, like, if you believe that if you, as a developer or as just a human, let's say you're not a developer, right? Because I know not all of you guys write code, but let's just say you're just a human being, and part of your belief set and part of your vision for the future involves a philosophical viewpoint on code, and people implement something with that same philosophical viewpoint using code, and then they just change it a year and a half later because they're afraid, because Big Brother's coming, knock, knock, knock. Then do they really have that? Do they really stand for that philosophical viewpoint? I would argue maybe not. Maybe not as strong as they do. A Chang says 666. I'm not quite sure what 666 is, my friend, but if you could clarify what 666 you're talking about, let me know. Vereen says Zelda Spring Nuts Cash LMAO. Yeah, I saw that too. I mean, they had some weird stuff on there, right? Cody Moose in the Who says ELP DeFi platform. Let's do it. Antonio in the house says sup, killas. And then Tom says, shouldn't the uni governance process prevent them from making changes like that? All right, Tom. That's something we're going to get to, right? So, all right. So now everyone knows, or if you didn't know, surprise, Uniswap doesn't need people to vote and govern on something for them to make changes, right? Because apparently they just did it themselves, right? They didn't. Did they have a vote on that? Am I missing something? I don't believe they did. Guys, maybe I'm feigning ignorance here, or I would like to feign ignorance because from what I can tell and what I know, and I'm pretty sure I would know that they did not have a vote on that, right? They just went ahead and did it. If I'm wrong, someone let me know in the chat so I can change the tone on that, because that might have been completely different. But okay, so another thing too, like, do you think the people would vote for something like that? I don't think so, right? That's like, well, okay. In the real world, if quote unquote powers that be wanted to make a change to the law, and they had people needed to vote on that change, they wouldn't just like, and obviously 99% of the population would reject that vote or say no. They couldn't do it. They couldn't just go and like have an election for it, right? What they would have to do is they'd probably have to do something along the lines of like do a smear campaign and do some like programming into the NPCs of the people, into their console, and make them believe a certain thing, so that when they vote on it afterwards, then they would all vote the way that the GOVERMENT wanted them to. Spark55 says hi. Hello, my friend. Cody Moose says WWMCD. What would McAfee do? McAfee would not like that. McAfee had his own exchange, his own DEX. He had a few of them actually. So like, and obviously, I think guys, we know what McAfee would do, right? And I'm not saying John McAfee is like, I'm not saying he is, Jesus incarnate, right? Because he's not. He had his problems, right? He was also very eccentric. But like McAfee's belief sets were with his viewpoint on the government and the world, I believe were pretty firm and pretty solid. He was about as a freedom-loving motherfucker as anyone could be. Ransom likes your saying, Cody. Wade Emery says, "Can you code the government into submission?" We're going to talk about that tonight. But let's actually, that was actually Wade. That was actually literally the next thing that we're going to get to. So let's just go ahead and talk about that now. Okay. And I don't know who from DD is in here in the chat tonight, but we have a guy in Canada who works for. How should I say this? He works for an agency that is run by a governing authority. All right, we'll just say it like that, because he probably doesn't want anyone to know any of this stuff. Without getting personal, we have a guy, we have a Canuck, we have a good old Canadian guy who works for a governing authority, and he just started working there. And he was telling us about some like training videos they were doing and stuff. And one of the things they were talking about was basically like having AI replace governmental pieces of the government, right? Now, that would require a governmental agency to like emulate or to just put into existence, right? Because I mean, obviously, like tomorrow, all of us aren't going to like write a bunch of code and the government's going to be gone. That's not how that works. But if that were to happen, like overnight, immediately, it would obviously have to be something that the government wanted to do, right? And is this possible? Yeah, it's definitely possible. Maybe not now. I mean, I guess it's not outside of the realm of possibility for it to happen now, but it definitely could happen now. Probably more likely in the future. But like, what about DAOs, guys? Does anyone know what a DAO is? A DAO stands for Decentralized Autonomous Organization, right? Which is really just, what does that really mean in fancy words? It is software, a software protocol that doesn't have a centralized point of authority, doesn't have any sort of like, so all the benefits that you get from something that's decentralized, right? It's permissionless. You don't have to trust it. Don't trust, verify, right? It's never going to lie or cheat or steal as long as the code has programmed it to do what it's doing, or it's going to do what the code programs it to do, right? So obviously, somebody has to make that code, and that code is malicious. Like, let's just say there's an algorithm in there and there's like an if statement. And one of the things that we're actually talking about in particular was like this AI made predictions on people's behaviors as to whether or not they're going to commit a crime in the future. And what they would do is like, if the algorithm, because I can't even say that fucking word in here, if the algorithm were to detect that, hey, this person is potentially going to like, kill somebody in the future, it had two choices to make. One would be, it would take the person and it would kind of like rehabilitate them into like the model citizen. And then the latter choice would be that they would just basically exterminate that person, right? And this is like serious shit, right? This is like crazy. But so if you're writing code that's going to have people's like life, like literally people's lives, and the consequence of people's lives is going to be on the line, like that's some serious shit, right, man? So, first of all, yes, Wade, this can definitely happen, but who's going to write that code and who's going to regulate that code? How is it going to be regulated? Because again, guys, software, and this is something I've always been taught from day one of me learning how to code. Software is only as good and only as smart as the person who wrote it, right? And usually nowadays, like it's more than one person that's writing, huge applications, stuff like that. There's more than one person. There's teams of people, right? And maybe people leave the team and more people come in. So there's going to be a plethora of people always going to be like touching this code. But can it be done? Yes. Can it be done good? I don't know. I really don't know, right? Unless AI comes and writes the code, but then who wrote the code for the AI, right? Or maybe that AI was written by another AI program, but who wrote the first one, right? Was it Elon Karen Musk that wrote that AI? Because if so, I wouldn't trust that artificial intelligence. NLF says 6 protons, 6 neutrons, 6 electrons. Alrighty. Max Dignitas says orange coin is a black hole that would consume us all. Yes, Max is correct. Listen, guys, Bitcoin is a black hole, and Bitcoin is a virus. You can't get rid of it. Either if you love it or you hate it, you can't get rid of it. Bitcoin's also a Trojan horse, and it's going to continue to consume everything in its path until its job is done, until there's no more, right? I'd venture to say that, by the time there's no more Bitcoin left to be mined, we will probably be on to something bigger and better, right? It's a long time from now, but it's a solution. This solution that we have, and I'm labeling it as a solution because, quite frankly, if one were to argue that the way we have our current monetary system or current monetary policy is a solution, Bitcoin is also a solution, and it's a far better solution, right? So when it's done, we'll move on to something else, just like people have throughout mankind, throughout history. But Max is right, guys. It's a black hole. It is indeed a black hole. Let It Begin Again says it's a, quote, democracy, end quote, LOL. Spark55 says, what's the best programming language? What's the best programming language for a beginner? And what's the best for a dev job? All right. So yeah, this is another thing that people always ask me. So guys, if you're trying to learn how to code, it doesn't really matter. Honestly, it doesn't really matter what language you learn. When you start to develop for a long time, you understand that basically fundamentally most programming languages are the same throughout. Why is that? Because what does code run on? It runs on a computer, right? Last time I checked, there's really no readily available computers that aren't structured the same way, i.e., with a CPU, central processing unit, some RAM, and then some long-term memory, right? So if this code needs to run on a computer at the machine level, at that part of the machine, there's only a couple things that it can do. And so code is fundamentally the same. And when you learn one language, it's easier to learn more and more. Maybe one language has this cool way that you type something, and another language is better for X, Y, or Z, but they're basically all the same. But so it doesn't really matter which one you start with, but which one is the best to start learning. People are going to tell you different opinions, but I would say I would say JavaScript would be probably one of the easiest things that you could start with. It's a lot less there's a lot less bars and chains and shackles on JavaScript, and it's a little bit more free flowing. I don't personally like that. I like having rough, rigid, defined ways to write code, because to me it's just it's more laws that I can stay inside of and do less thinking about. But yeah, I would just start learning web development, man. Christian Soto says Skynet. Yep, Skynet is coming. But again, who's going to write the code for Skynet, right? Who's going to do that? Alex Haddock says, what's up, brother? What's up, man? Good to see you. Donnie Boy says, sounds like Westworld Season 2. Yeah. Cody Moose in the Who says, I don't know about the Canuck government, but Uncle Sam devs can't even navigate a markdown file, let alone code AI. Yeah, right. He's right. He's right, guys, too. If we had the ability to write to have really solid artificial intelligence, it would probably be being used a lot more than it is now. I mean, look at these self-driving cars. They don't really do a good job, right? They run off the road, right? But back to the topic at hand. So, all right. The writing's on the wall, okay? All these people just out of nowhere just start to rush regulations for cryptocurrency. and blockchain based technologies. And why do you think that is, guys? Like, why do you think that is? If you guys have been following my channel, you guys know how much I speak about the whole monetary system right now, how awfully flawed it is, how inflation is literally going rampant, even though they're telling you that it's not that bad. But people are feeling it. People are feeling it. They can feel it in their pocketbooks, guys. They feel it every time they go to the gas station. They feel it every time they go to the grocery store. They feel it every time they go buy a drink at the gas station. And it's a couple more cents more than it was last time, more than it was a week ago, right? And plus the statistics are there, right? What else people feeling? Something I would love to complain about right now. So PayPal, banks, Bank. Jesus Christ. PayPal always gives me fucking problems. It's like they don't want to make you using their system easy. Basically, they don't want to make giving you your money easy. Same with the banks, right? We have a bunch of these third-party organizations and companies that their real purpose, well, to be specific, banks, what real purpose do banks have, guys, in the year 2021? As Jonathan MLD would say, the year 2021, the year of crypto fun. What real purpose do banks serve? All right. What banks do? So let's look at let's not even talk about banks. All right. Let's talk about PayPal. All right. What does PayPal do? PayPal is a third-party payment processing system. They're also basically a bank now too, right? They literally are a bank. But what do? They allow people from the internet to send and receive money for business, for personal use, right? And why were they created? Well, because the internet came out of nowhere and people started making online businesses. And how do people back before when we only had banks? How do people send money to? How does someone from Africa buy something online and send that money to someone in America? Well, I mean, before you had to do some sketchy stuff. You had to contact the seller, or the seller would contact the buyer, and he'd be like, here's my checking and routing number. Do me an ACH wire to my bank, and it would take 7 days, 3 weeks using the Swift payment processing system, which is about as boomer as it gets, right? And so PayPal just basically uses software and basically makes it appear like you receive that money instantly, even though you don't. All right, and they usually don't. Right? If you make decent money from an online business, they always make it hard for you to get money. But let's just say I'm just sending a friend $200, so I can click a button and send a friend $200, and my friend can instantly get that $200 and instantly deposit it to his credit card through a reverse transaction. Right? But what actually happens, guys, is $200 doesn't just literally go from one checking account out of that checking account into my friend's checking account. Basically, PayPal, and this is how it is with debit cards and pretty much any kind of modern day payment processing system. They basically have a pool of their own money, and they kind of deduct it in from their account into yours, and they basically a bunch of things are allowed to make it appear without having to get super specific, guys. A bunch of things are allowed to be made to make it appear as if you instantly get your money. But you don't. Basically, PayPal's fronting you money from place X, and then then PayPal takes the money when that money is actually wired to them or moved to them, right? So I mean, this was something that we needed back in the day, right? And obviously, since money is important, and especially for online businesses or just people pay for things on the internet all the time now. It's probably more common for people to pay for things over the internet. I would be willing to bet, and I don't know, but I would be willing to bet that there's more, internet payment processing going on a daily basis than just people exchanging cash or just going to a store. And then again, if you do go to a store and you swipe your card, technically that's money being sent over the internet now, right? So we needed them, and obviously, they took their share, right? They were like, yeah, we'll do all this stuff for you. We created this system. We'll do all this stuff for you, but we're gonna take our fee, right? But nowadays, we have cryptocurrency, right? It's permissionless, and the fees are they're negligible, right? So if you wanted to send, let's just use this guy right here. Let's use the first one, all right? If I wanted to send a payment to somebody on here, most likely Like, let's just say the average person is going to send the other average person Bitcoin. What's the easiest way that normies would do that? They would pull out their Cash App, they would buy Bitcoin, and they would send it to somebody. That's using the Lightning Strike network, and it would be literally instant, right? And the fee for like a $200 transaction. And some of this stuff, guys, in some of these places, it can literally be like 1 to 10 Satoshis, which is like, a penny, right? But maybe you'll pay like $1.99 for a $200 fee, right? Instead of paying like a percentage or whatever. And it's instant, right? And let's just say I didn't do that. Let's just say I just sent from, a vanilla Bitcoin wallet, and I sent it to someone else, right? It would be done in under 30 minutes, probably a lot faster than that. But it would be done in under 30 minutes. It would be a very small fee, and I don't have to I would have access to that money immediately, right? I could send it. I could, put it in a cold storage. I could do whatever I wanted with it, right? I wouldn't have to have permission, okay? The point is that it's permissionless. And why? Because Bitcoin is a permissionless, decentralized network, all right? It's a permissionless, decentralized computer protocol for money, right? And so when you think about that, all right, you think about that, and then you think about having to deal with the fuckery with banks and with PayPal. And I actually had an issue. I've been having issues with PayPal for the last year and a half, right? I've had them do things up to and including locking or holding my money for 3 months for literally, at the time I had just started this online business, and to be quite honest with you, I understood it in the beginning. They were like, "Hey, this is a new business, so we just want to make sure that you're not like, I don't know, a scammer or whatever." I guess when you start out somewhere, you have to kind of prove yourself in the world, and so that's understanding, right? But another thing too, it's like, what if let's just say on average on a month I would make $400, $500, and then 1 month I did really good and I would make $1,500. So I make a 2x more than what I normally do. PayPal, what they do is they're like, "Hey, you did better than you normally do. We're going to punish you from that. We're going to have to prevent you from having access to your money, because this is what we do. We punish people for doing good, and we reward people actually for not doing good." So, what do banks do too? Like, if you ever, let's just say you're a normal wage you owe, Jack, you get 2 $1,000 payments per month on the 15th and 30th from your company, and all of a sudden, maybe your family member passes away, and you get wired $1 million into your account. Your bank most likely is going to be like, "Hey, what the fuck? Where'd you get this money? Where'd it come from?" My dead grandma. What do you mean? What did your dead grandma do? Did she sell drugs? And you have to go file all these papers. You got to do a bunch of stuff. Sometimes they'll probably reject it. I've heard plenty of stories, banks literally just closing their account because maybe they were trading cryptocurrency and they took a profit and they wanted to just deposit $15,000 in your account. And the bank will close your account and send them a check and be like, "Yeah, sorry, we're closing your account." So what the fuck, right? Or they would just be like, "Hey, you need to go through all these back alleys to get access to your money." So if you don't have access to your money, you can't move it, but you can just see it on a screen. Is it really yours? Is it really yours? Right? And that's what this legacy banking system, this legacy monetary system, that's what they do. Essentially, they're just like a mafia that, has control because they're in the place they're in, because in one point in time, we needed them, but we don't anymore. We really don't, because, alternative currency and alternative monetary policies and systems exist because they were written in code, and they don't have an agenda. They're just software. They really don't have feelings. Let's talk about Bitcoin. Bitcoin doesn't have feelings. Bitcoin doesn't care. Bitcoin doesn't care, all right, in two different extremes. Bitcoin doesn't care if you're giving money to somebody because you're laundering $1 million. But Bitcoin also doesn't care if you're giving money to somebody for a charity that's $1 million. It doesn't care. It has no agenda. Bitcoin doesn't care about any of that stuff because it's just code, right? It's just code, and that's it. And if people ever want to make changes to that code, more than 51% of people that run the network, all right, need to agree that this change needs to be done. And since Bitcoin is so decentralized and has spread all over the world like a virus, basically every region, every country, even companies too, would all have to agree that the thing that needed to be changed was going to benefit them, which means everybody, for that change to be taken in place. So it really truly is a system for the people, right? So I ask you guys, like, what is the purpose of these third party payment processors? Which, by the way, their software is awful, just fucking awful. It's legacy code. All right, let me tell you guys a story about today, PayPal. So I had to open a new checking account for my LLC. Right. And I linked my LLC's checking account to PayPal. Right. And when I went to go deposit funds from my PayPal into the new checking account, PayPal just is like, there's an error. Something's wrong here. Contact support. Tried over and over again. Doesn't work. So I'm already familiar with dealing with this shit with them. So I'm just like, all right. So I gotta call them on the phone. So call them on the phone, and a very nice lady answers the phone, and I talk to her. I tell her the situation. I'm like, hey, I have a relationship with you guys for over a year and a half. I've never had this problem before, at least to this magnitude. Could you please kindly give me a reason why this problem is existing? Because all it says is an error has occurred. Try again later. And she's like, "Oh, sir, yeah, we're really sorry about that. It's just the software. The software. There's a security like vulnerability in the software, and yeah, like it's just it just happens. I really can't tell you why, and I really can't tell you when this will be resolved, but yeah, it's just software." I'm just like, hold on a second. Who wrote that software? Did PayPal write the software? And I didn't say this to the lady because I don't think she would have, quite frankly, I don't think she would have understood anything I said. But like, it's not like, guys, it's not like PayPal has this AI that's this omnipotent AI that's just out there and just writing software, just making decisions for things, right? I mean, they have developers who wrote the software, so they know why the error is occurring. Okay, more so than it's just a security issue, right? With a new bank, and they have a number of days or a time frame of which they could tell me when the issue would be resolved, when I would be allowed to use this new account. But of course, she doesn't know all that stuff, right? And would I ever have to be able to get a hold of somebody to like actually tell me those answers? I mean, it would probably, maybe I could. I would have to probably like fight through 1,000 Karens on the phone with PayPal, which quite frankly, I don't have the fucking time to do. So I was just like, fuck it, leave it be. But I mean, here we have a legacy payment system, basically part of the banking mafia, right? That just decides that they, if we're going to use them, that they can just take your money and do whatever they want to do with it, not allow you to do what you want to do with it, right? So why are we using them? Why are we dependent on them? Well, the reason we are now is because we're kind of still in that old world, all right? We're still kind of in that Web 2.0 world, right? We're just starting to take a step in Web 3, and quite frankly, like there's really no reason why you can't just accept cryptocurrency for payment. Okay, anyone could. It's not as streamlined to do that, but actually, guys, how could I forget the channel sponsor? This website right here, SavvyPay.com. Some guy from Developer Direction wrote this code, and basically, like, if you have a website that you want to be able to integrate Ethereum payments, you contact him. You start the service with him. He gives you 5 lines of code to copy and paste on your website, and then boom, you can accept Ethereum from anywhere. All right. And it's never going to be problematic because you're never going to have to call them up, and you never have to be like, hey, why aren't you giving me my Ethereum? They're not just going to take it. It's the blockchain. It's either going to get the payment's either going to accept, all right, because it's literally software. It's a function. It's a transfer function. It's probably like, it's a transfer to function. It's probably like literally 5 lines of code, right? So it's either going to accept and give that money to the person, or it's going to reject it, and it's only going to reject it if their balance is not high enough to to send it, or there's a gas issue or something, right? But other than that, you're never gonna have to call somebody on the phone. In fact, there is no one to call on the phone. You can't just call the Ethereum virtual machine and be like, "Hey, what's wrong?" Right? It doesn't work like that. It's just always gonna work. So, like, people, I'm not the only one who thinks this way, right? And I won't sit and harp all day long on like, man, the banks, man, they're really bringing us down, man. Because quite frankly, their time is near, right? Their time is near, and they smell it, right? They smell it, which is why they're freaking the fuck out. All right. Why did China eradicate all the Bitcoin miners in the country? Well, you guys kind of know why, right? China's trying to do their own digital currency thing. If you guys have seen my YouTube channel video, FedCoin versus or CBDCs versus Bitcoin, you guys know how I feel about that, right? But obviously, if you watch it, you know how they'll feel about that too. And that's exactly why they kick those miners out. They don't want people to leave their system. And that's what all this is about, guys. They're trying so fucking hard to prevent this literal human revolution. As cheesy as it fucking is to say, guys, this is a literal human revolution. It literally is. Never before in our entire existence as humans have we had the ability to put monetary policy into our own hands outside of a government, right? And if you fix the money, you fix the world. Literally. People shouldn't be spending all their time trying to focus on money. They should be spending their time trying to progress humanity, trying to be A++ in their field, trying to cultivate good relationships with people, trying to have a family, trying to do good things in life. But everyone is focused on money. And why are we focused on money? Because we're forced to. If we don't have that underlying security, well, then Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we don't have food, shelter, clothing, things go fucking haywire, right? And what can you exist as an average person today, being a wagey Wojak, doing a normal job, and just putting a couple money aside every month into a 401k and be able to depend on that when you retire? No, you can't. We could maybe like 40 years ago, but not anymore, right? And why is that? There's an infinite amount of cash in the Federal Reserve, right? They keep printing the money. They want to incentivize everybody to stay inside of the system, which is why they're freaking the fuck out. If people go outside of their system and it's like this, guys. It's almost like you're stuck inside of a cage with no sunlight. And you've been there your entire life, right? And then suddenly, someone in the cage next to you is like, hey, dude, watch this. We can open it up. We can go outside. And hey, there's like sunlight and vitamin D, and we can breathe the fresh mountain air. And so you step outside the cage, and what do you see? You see the sun. You see the green grass. You see the trees, and you breathe that fucking fresh mountain air. Maybe you put your hand in the stream. You get a nice little sip of that fresh mountain water, and you're like, whoa, what the fuck was I doing living in this cage? That makes no sense. It makes no sense at all. They don't want people to see this. They don't want people to see the sunlight. They don't want people to see the fresh mountain air. So, of course, they're going to do as much as they can to freak the fuck out and to prevent people from leaving their system. They're scared of code. They're literally scared of code, all right? To put it as bluntly as possible, they're afraid of code, right? Because they know the inevitable, that freedom always wins, okay? And this is a Project Freedom podcast. Freedom has always won throughout the course of humanity, right? And it's a cycle. Freedom wins. Things become more and less free. People become fed up with it. There's usually a revolution, and then the cycle repeats itself. Hard times create tough men. Tough men create good times. Good times create weak men. Weak men create hard times. Hard times lead to decentralization. All right? Don't forget that. Christian Soto says, it's the same for art. Having rules and limits helps with creativity. Yeah. You're saying having rules. Oh, okay. I know what you're saying now. Are you talking about with code, right? Right. Okay. I know what you're saying. Spark 55 says, well, isn't AI Just intimidating human learning, but not actual consciousness. Okay, well, let's try to break that down. So let's take the first half of that sentence. AI. What is AI? Artificial intelligence. All right. I don't know the Wikipedia definition of artificial intelligence off the top of my head, guys. But essentially, artificial intelligence is just like intelligence that is artificial. So what is now we have to define what is artificial, and we have to define what is intelligence. All right. What is artificial? Something synthetic in nature, something not natural, something created. I would say that artificial is something that is created to be like something else. All right. So AI, and what is intelligence? That's one's ability to make logical decisions based off of a some sort of logical process in your brain. Right. So artificial intelligence, we could say, is just an artificial entity or thing. Let's just say code that can make logical decisions. All right. Based off of some sort of like logical process or processes. Right. And Spark 55 says, isn't AI just limiting imitating human learning, but not actual consciousness? Yes, in a way. And again, so our organic intelligence is really, quite frankly, like I mean, maybe someone can like define this in a nicely little like couple boxes or something, but like, what is our human intelligence? Everybody has a completely different like type of intelligence. Everybody has a different level of intelligence. Everybody has different life experiences, which cultivate that sort of intelligence and processes and logical thinking. So, if one person writes software that's supposed to like quote unquote learn things to make logical decisions, like it's going to be based off of that one person, right? So, I mean, in a way, it has nothing to do with consciousness, right? You're right about that. It has nothing to do with consciousness at all. At least to my knowledge, maybe there is something out there where you can like upload. Maybe there does exist a technology where you can upload yourself to the blockchain. I don't know. There's definitely not. But if there is, we wouldn't know about it, right? But yeah, I mean, it's just artificial learning is actually what you're talking about. Our actual AI is just like it's just like software it's an algorithm, and it just has a rigidly defined set of rules for what can or can't happen. All right. But human learning is it's a little bit different, but they're coupled together, right? But yeah, you're pretty much correct on that. Sam Perchinsky says we have newspapers telling you to buy assets. Yeah, right. Yeah. Right. That's when I believe JFK had a quote that is when the shoe shiner boy starts giving you a tip, it's time to sell. Right. San Francisco says cars double in price. Max Dignitas says banks are not your friend. No, they're definitely not. They don't fucking care about you. In fact, so guys, I live in Miami, right? I moved from New Orleans. I'm in the process of selling one of my houses in New Orleans right now. And so, I learned a lot with all that. And I learned a good bit about, not a good bit, a decent bit about real estate and all that kind of stuff. And, it kind of led me down this entire path of learning more and more about money and financial freedom. And so when I would say that maybe I'm like averagely versed, maybe slightly above average on this kind of knowledge, all right? So anytime I can ever talk to somebody who has more knowledge than me than that, I shut up and listen. All right, I do, and because I want to get better. All right, and when I came and moved to Miami, and to come meet the landlord of the place that I'm renting right now, I found out a few things about him, and basically, he's let's just say like this: my landlord is like was very high up, very, very high up in the hierarchy of a very large national bank. All right. He no longer is. He's retired. But he knows a thing or two about finance and money, and specifically technology. We'll just say that. And when I was talking to him and meeting him for the first time, he was like, we're discussing which ways, how we're going to pay. And I was like, yeah, dude, like, what, how do you want me to pay? Like PayPal, Venmo, Cash App. And I was like, you want to take Bitcoin? And I was like, just kidding. And he actually, his face lit up. He's like, oh yeah, give me the Bitcoin. But we talked about it for a little bit, and I was like, well, we'll just try PayPal. All right. The people that I was just complaining about, but it made the most sense at the time. And then I was talking to him about things, about banks around here, because I currently bank with a small bank that is not in the States, a private bank. And I've been with them for like 20 years. So like my entire life. And I don't really want to find a new bank. And quite frankly, I think banks just suck, guys. Banks are just trash. So unless you get a small private bank and have an established relationship with them where they know you and you know that they're actually going to have feelings for you. Like you literally establish a human relationship with them and they have feelings for you. They're not going to treat you like shit. But there's really no small banks here, right? So I asked him, I know the story's getting long, guys, but I promise it's the point. So I asked him, like, what banks, hey man, like what bank do you use around here? And he's like, oh, there's like a Fidelity over there. There's like a bank over here. But if I'm going to be honest with you, I don't really use banks. Banks use me. And I was like, whoa, this dude is woke as fuck. And so guys, this old dude who was literally part of a very large bank, a literal boomer, even he knew that banks aren't your friend, right? So Max Dignitas, you're correct, man. They're not your friend. They don't care about you. They just want to rug you. Speaking of rugging, NLF says PayPal also rugs you and puts your money on hold for weird reasons. Yeah. So God forbid you get a new bank account. Then PayPal's like, all right, time to rug. Tom Graff says to fleece the customer. Yep, that is the point because that's all they do now. Now that we have other means from technology, from literal lines of code on a screen that don't do those things, we don't need the banks anymore. So what is their purpose? I mean, it's just like, we're all using them still and we're kind of just doing it stupidly because we just, we're allowing them to fleece us, right? Donnie Boy says they keep your money for a while so they can invest it for 3 to 5 business days. Yeah. Sounds like some fractional reserve shit right there. Christian Soda says popcorn emojis, eyes. NLF says money just started as a certificate for kings to travel around without having to carry all their fortune and risk getting robbed on their way to their next destination. Knights Templar. Yeah. Because I mean, like, what do people use before, right? Like riches and jewels and gold, right? I mean, other than that, people would barter with things. So like, a goat farmer would like give some of his goat's milk and cheese to the blacksmith for, I don't know, whatever he needed from the blacksmith. Max Dignita says, but could you get Vitalik on the line? I don't know if we could. Christian Soto said, do you smell what the blockchain is cooking? I do, because it's coming, like The Rock. It's coming. Pancakes. Max Dignita also says, institutions and even individuals in jobs will do anything to preserve their relevance. Yeah. That's why they're freaking out, guys. That's why they're afraid of the lines on a screen. That's why they're trying so hard out of nowhere to rush all this into existence, because they know as more and more people start to smell what's going on with their money, as more and more people see their money being devalued before their fucking eyes, as more and more people are pushed out of having the ability to be sovereign, to be financially secure, to be financially free, more and more people are starting to look elsewhere. And when more and more people look elsewhere and step outside of that little fucking box that everyone's put in, the more scared they get. Donnie Boy says, if the government taxes you at 100%, it's slave space ERY. Yep. At what percentage does it stop being slave space ERY? It's a good question, man. A good question. We all know, look, the money system is in place now. It's all to keep this giant Ponzi scheme alive. All right. It's all to keep this giant Ponzi scheme alive. And we're just human cattle, right? We're just human cattle. And what happens when you die? When people die, they take your money. What is money? Money is literally stored life force. It's stored energy. So when a cow dies and you take its meat, it's really no different than us dying and the government taking our money. So we're just human cattle, right? Literally. That's another thing too, right? Like people, the way that we view money, this like really awful system we have, nobody is really taught, nobody's taught any of this stuff in school. And a lot of this stuff, guys, is really complicated, right? It's really fucking complicated. Nobody's taught any of this stuff in school, and everyone's like only focused on having to get money to be able to spend it. But no one really knows like the best thing that you could do in reality. Well, maybe they know, but the best thing you can do in reality is to store your energy so that you can pass it on and preserve it, and maybe give it to your family. Maybe have it for an emergency. Maybe live your life without having to go and be a wagey Wojak. Do things that are important and meaningful to you and contribute to society other than being Susan at HR for some company who just doesn't give two shits about you, right? And that's all we are. Nobody knows this kind of, nobody knows the opposite. If they do, they don't really know a way how, because none of us ever taught that. But in the year 2021, thanks to our great Lord and Savior, Satoshi Nakamoto, we have a cure for this disease. We have unbiased software that's able to replace this entire thing. Just like the internet and email has replaced almost everything. It's pretty much replaced almost everything, right? And if it hasn't completely replaced it, it's replaced it in a majority, right? And then maybe people, okay, how many people here actually buy CDs anymore? Anyone? If you buy an actual CD, it's just because like, hey, like I want to support this artist, or because you want the novelty of it, right? But people don't even have to buy a CD to support an artist anymore. They can just, send them a tip or whatever, or buy their music files, or have a subscription to iTunes that pays them all a monthly fee anyway, right? So you don't even need to do that anymore. Software itself is even being put on the internet. So like, if you want to use kind of software, you don't really need to have it downloaded on your computer anymore. You can just go to the website and run it from your browser, right? All kinds of things. Literally, technology has changed everything in humanity. And if you really don't think that it's going to continue to change, the last thing that is still keeping all of humanity caged in a little box, the monetary system, well, as Michael Searle would say, have fun staying poor, right? Tom says, tax cows. Yep. Christian Soto says, mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. It is. What do you mean by that, though? I buy CDs and books, LOL. Yeah, but you do it for novel reasons, right? Bandcamp records for me. Yeah, but how many people? But you're buying old records, right? From like those record stores, like as a collector's thing, right? Like nowadays, when all the 15, 16-year-old kids, when a new album gets released, they don't need to go and like to the record store to get a record, right? NLF says, yes, some artists started implementing ETH. It's cray-cray. Yep. A lot of people are, guys. A lot of people are. And again, guys, and another thing too. So let's talk about, can't really relate this to Ethereum too much, but let's just talk about Bitcoin in particular. If people want to get paid in something, and there's two options, all right? Let's just say there's two options. One payment that you can take it in your hand, and then it's just going to immediately melt and start melting. And if you don't use it to get something else, it's just gone. It's valueless. It's melted. It's disappeared. And the other option, it might melt a little bit every now and then, but over time, it is consistently only grown, and then you can do more with it. Which one of those two do you think is going to be more of a realistic expectation, or a realistic thing to keep, or more something that's realistic for people to want to keep, as opposed to something that's just going to completely melt and evaporate? Oh, and did I also mention that every month, the process of it melting speeds up rapidly, especially in the last year? The cell thing is a joke about what schools teach kids. Oh, yeah. Yeah, schools are dumb too, right? NLF says, I used to play Frisbee with records my GPA had. LOL. And Christian also thinks that's funny. So, all right. If you can't access your money, is it really yours, guys? And expect look, I know I went all over the place on all kinds of different subjects tonight, right? But just expect this legacy software system, this legacy code, all these bankers, all these entities that control everything. You can expect them to continually get nervous and to continually tighten up their grip of what they want to allow people to do, right? Because they know that they're going to get replaced, and it's only just a matter of time. Again, it really only is a matter of time. All right, so I went through like most of the points of things that I wanted to go over, but let's go back now. Let me see if I can find that comment, and also share my screen. So let's go back now and let's look at this guy right here. So, all right, I'm not sure. All right, so this is just a synthetics website, guys. All right, I think the comment was along the lines of like, okay, so you get synthetic USD for staking. I think that's one way to do it. Let me see if I can find this comment. Hold on. Or who said it too? If you said it, just hurry up and type it again. Let's see. Okay, Donnie Boy says synthetic USD is created when you stake synthetics. Okay. All right. So let's see what else too. Let's look at the synths. Let's look at the synths page of their website. All right. So what is synthetic USD? It tracks the price of single US dollar. The synthetic always remain constant at 1. All right. So how do we? I believe you do get synthetic USD, but they have to be created too, right? I think this is just the exchange, but synth derivative tokens providing exposure to a range of assets. They can be traded with infinite liquidity and zero slippage by leveraging the synthetics protocol unique pooled collateralized model. Trades have seen synths generated a small fee that is distributed to synthetics collateral providers. All right, so I mean this, and a lot of this, guys, it's really complicated. Like, I mean, it's not super complicated, but it takes a bit to kind of get a full grasp of. But I mean, look at all these synthetic assets they have, right? And primarily here, I mean, a lot of these people like, so synthetic oil, synthetic gold, right? Synthetic silver. These are all paper derivatives markets, right? And what do we know? What do we know about equity markets in modern times? What do we know about derivative markets, paper markets, stuff like this? I mean, we know that they're like heavily manipulated, right? And they're all gone through like several centralized entities, even though we have centralized exchanges here too. But the centralized exchanges here utilize the underlying blockchains that they are of the digital assets that they're trading, right? So like we have our markets have in the cryptoverse, our markets have the ability to be manipulated. But if someone does manipulate it, it's 100% transparent, right? Because you can't outsmart the blockchain. You literally can't. The blockchain's not going to lie to you. It's not going to hide anything from you. It's not going to cheat from you. It's not going to steal from you, right? Because it's just code. It's just code that doesn't have a bias. And then also in our world, both parties can manipulate it. You know, the whales, the institutions, and then also the normal people, the average Joe. I mean, everyone technically, there's nothing to prevent everyone from pulling up together and just like, you know, make it if we got like 1 million people on the planet Earth on a forum to like hit a buy order for $20 at the same time, the price would just launch up, right? Just like they did with Robinhood stocks and all that stuff. But what happened? Let's talk about that. All the Robinhood kids doing all the pooling together their resources to pump a price and then holding their stocks, their stonks, to prevent manipulation from these hedge funds, right? And they got information too. These hedge funds can get information from Robinhood and from other exchanges. They can just pay for them, right? So like, what's the difference between there? One is a market that has code written by a centralized authority, and the centralized authority can take advantage of that. And the other one is a market where the underlying architecture is code written in a non-biased manner, hosted from a decentralized computing protocol that, okay, it can be manipulated, but like a central point of authority can't just say, all right, we're going to shut the Bitcoin blockchain down. Good luck. Good fucking luck. In fact, if you're going to, you know, it'd be hard to shut down the Ethereum blockchain now too, right? Virene says synthetics to 400 plus, please. That'd be cool. Modern Life Dating is my favorite show. Shout out to MLD in the chat. You guys go subscribe to his channel. He is indeed a wizard. He's a gentleman and a scholar. NLF says, I'll marry the blockchain then. Seems like a good catch. She won't like to me or cheat. She won't lie to you or cheat. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. That's the beauty about this technology, guys. Like, we literally, without having a harp on it, for the first time in fucking human history, we have the ability through the power of software to have an open and transparent thing to replace our monetary system where if someone's going to manipulate it, everyone can fucking see. Everyone can fucking see. You can't hide that shit. It's never going to lie to you. It's never going to cheat from you, and it's never going to steal from you because that's just the way that it was designed. Okay. It's the way that it was designed. And the thing is, if people didn't like the design of it, they could just go and create a different one. All right. And they could just go to a different protocol. All right. Or people could vote on something and they could come to a consensus, and a majority of people that wanted something a certain way would change. It would change. All right. It would change, and they get a green light and it would change. And again, nobody's going to make this change because look at Bitcoin. Look at the Boomer coin. It's spread so far across the entire planet. That change would have to literally be beneficial to everyone everywhere in order for that to be done, right? And guys, you should all be running. If you are a believer in this technology, you should do your due diligence to run a node for these technologies. You can do it on a computer. You don't have to need an entire mining rig to participate in this protocol, right? You can just do it, and everyone should, right? Especially if you own that kind of stuff, you should. NLF says, "I'll marry the." Oh, I did indeed read that one already. MLD says Amazon taking BTC payments by the end of the year. I did hear that. That'd be really cool. Now who knows? And guys too. Do you guys think that Jeff Bezos is an idiot? You guys think that guy's look? He's a fucking billionaire. He's one of the richest people on the planet. So riddle me this. Do you guys think that you could just become the richest person on the planet by being stupid? Okay, I didn't think so. So do you guys think that Jeff Bezos doesn't smell and see the writing on the wall like all these other legacy systems do? Do you guys think that Jeff Bezos, with his massive amount of cash reserves, isn't slightly concerned that it's being devalued by an enormous rate, literally by the day? Do you think that Jeff Bezos doesn't own any Bitcoin? You think that Jeff Bezos doesn't own any Boomer coin? If I was a betting man, I would say that he definitely does, right? Because he is not an idiot. In fact, he is quite frankly the exact opposite of an idiot. So if he's smart, he's trying to protect himself. And so again, when people start seeing people like that doing it, then more and more people are going to come on in. Come on in, get out of the cage. You're all free now. Get out of the fucking cage. You're all free. And unfortunately, the normies, they need permission from the people who are famous to tell them what they can do and to tell them they can be free. But eventually that's going to happen. And back to the theme of the stream, that is why they're afraid, guys. They're afraid of the fucking lines of code. They're afraid of lines on the screen. All right. That's all I have for you guys tonight. Thank you guys for coming and checking me out. Guys, I guess there's one thing you can all take away from this stuff. One, expect things to get rough. All right. Expect things for the people who do want to be free, who do want to better their life, who do believe in this technology, who want to incorporate it into their lives, who want to contribute to it, who believe, have that same philosophical viewpoint. Expect things to be tougher in the near future because they're gonna make it tough for us. All right, but freedom always wins. Freedom always wins, and they're not gonna win. They're not gonna win. The CBs, the CBs, if you guys know what I mean, the central BANKS, the govs. Well, their time is up. I'm out, guys.
Don't pit ta gaffe.
No, no, no!
And the gaffe. J'aime pas le même.
Lord Bogdanov, Crab 17 was a stunning success.
Ça serait une Humber t'impressionne. Ta crabe se vendit, moi sourire. Mr. Rothschild.
Forgive me, my lord.
Continue with the plan. Do not disappoint me. And garnish his wages. Mr. McDonald.
I'm loaded.
Good. Citrouille.